Let's get to where things start this morning with the coronavirus cases in the U.S. now approaching 1.4 million. And the death toll now tops 80,000. Also this morning, new safety measures are being put into place at the White House after two staffers, including the vice president's own press secretary, were diagnosed with COVID-19.
Meantime, officials are seeing a troubling spike in South Korea and India. Today, both countries are reporting their highest number of new infections in more than a month. And in China, overnight, Shanghai Disneyland reopened for the first time since January 25th. Crowd sizes being limited, visitors required to wear masks and also have their temperatures taken. Savannah.
Our team is in place, spread out around the world to bring you the very latest on this. Let's start at the White House. NBC's Jeff Bennett on duty this morning. Hi, Jeff. Good morning.
Hey, Savannah. Good morning to you. The coronavirus crisis is hitting closer to home for lawmakers here in Washington, both on Capitol Hill and here at the White House, where staffers say they're taking extra precautions to ensure the safety of the president after two aides tested positive for coronavirus. That's with three top health officials now self-quarantining, all of it undercutting the president's message that the outbreak is fading. This morning, the coronavirus crisis affecting both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. White House sources shooting down reports that Vice President Mike Pence, who chairs the coronavirus task force, would self-quarantine after his top spokesperson, Katie Miller, tested positive. She's also married to one of President Trump's top policy advisors, Stephen Miller. White House officials telling NBC News the vice president continues to test negative and has no restrictions to his schedule. On Capitol Hill, Tennessee Senator Lamar Alexander will remotely chair a hearing focused on safely returning to work and school after one of his staffers tested positive. Three of the top witnesses for that hearing, Dr. Anthony Fauci, CDC Director Robert Redfield, and FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn are also self-quarantining and are expected to appear by video conference.
It is scary to go to work. You know, I was not part of the White House in March. I think that I'd be a lot safer if I was sitting at home than I would be going to the West Wing. But, you know, it's a time when people have to step up and serve their country. The discovery of the two infected staffers, including one of the president's personal valets, prompting the White House to ramp up its safety procedures. White House officials tell NBC News testing and temperature checks have been boosted throughout the West Wing. Senior staff who interact with the president are being tested daily. Some staffers in the president's residence are now wearing masks. And the entire West Wing is being sanitized on an even more frequent basis. The difficulty containing the virus at the White House, where testing is widely available, highlights the challenge facing businesses nationwide that lack those same resources. But that could get easier, with the FDA now announcing that it's given emergency authorization for a new type of coronavirus test called an antigen test. Health experts say it's generally cheaper and easier to manufacture than current methods, and the results are faster too. The FDA says the antigen test could potentially scale to test millions of Americans per day. It comes as former President Barack Obama is speaking out about the Trump administration's handling of the pandemic during a phone conference with members of the Obama Alumni Association, the audio obtained by Yahoo News.
It would have been bad even with the best of governments. It has been an absolute chaotic disaster.
The White House is responding to President Obama's comments in a statement that reads in part, "There has been a bipartisan recognition of President Trump's leadership and the American people have taken notice." That aside, the president, now confronting a coronavirus scare in his inner circle, risks undermining his efforts to convince Americans that it's safe to return to work and regular life. Hoda?
All right, Jeff, thank you. Let's move overseas now to how other countries are handling COVID-19, including Great Britain. Overnight, Prime Minister Boris Johnson revealing the first steps toward easing lockdown restrictions there. Today, senior international correspondent Keir Simmons joins us now from London. Hey, Keir, good morning.
Hey, Hoda, good morning. In France this morning, you can finally leave your home without one of these, a certificate just to go out. In Spain and Switzerland, some folks can go out to eat tonight. But here in the UK, a sign of just how hard this still is. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, introducing a kind of warning system like traffic lights to alert people if the virus is surging again, underscoring just how nervous people are. This morning, as most of Europe relaxes the rules, Britain reopening more slowly and ready to reimpose restrictions if necessary. The Queen may not return to public duties, reports say, until a vaccine is found. Buckingham Palace telling NBC News she's taking appropriate advice. Prime Minister Boris Johnson, himself hospitalised by coronavirus, trying to give his country a measure of hope.
We will come back from this devilish illness. We will come back to health and robust health. But for now, we must stay alert, control the virus, and save lives.
Russia's President Putin rocked by the rise of coronavirus. Now more than 10,000 infections there a day. A small event with flowers and a flyover, replacing a much more elaborate celebration to mark 75 years since the end of World War II. In Germany, just days after relaxing the rules, the infection rate rising again and anger building. Minor protests, including far-right groups, led to clashes with police. Scenes repeated in Australia, where 10 people were arrested and police injured. While in Brazil, President Bolsonaro controversially brushing off the risks again, taking to a jet ski and joining a floating barbecue. Rio's Christ the Redeemer highlighting hunger among the poor in Brazil, caused by the coronavirus crisis. While Latin America's second largest airline, Colombia's Avianca, filing for bankruptcy. These are anxious days in Asia too. While Disney's theme park reopened in Shanghai, only at 30% capacity to allow for social distancing, this morning another Chinese city, Shulan, is in lockdown. China's infections increasing for a second day, fueling fears of a second wave. In sport, Europe's famous soccer is trying to restart again, but Savannah, without spectators. And another sign of the challenges, Savannah, because the UK thinks that it might be controlling the virus, it is now imposing a 2-week quarantine on anyone flying in, Savannah.
All right, Keir Simmons, thank you. And now to that breaking news from Iran overnight. One of the country's own warships hit by a missile in what's being described as a friendly fire accident that happened during a training exercise. NBC's chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us with this breaking news. Richard, good morning. What have you learned?
Good morning, Savannah. The Iranian state media have put out a statement, also released some images, and the army has put out a statement. This was a naval training exercise gone wrong, in which an Iranian destroyer accidentally fired a missile at one of its own support vessels. That vessel was laying out targets, and according to Iranian authorities, it got too close to one of the targets that it was releasing, and when the destroyer tried to fire at the target, it accidentally hit that support ship, killing, according to Iranian officials, 19 sailors and injuring 15 more. Iran is describing it as an accident.
All right, Richard, thank you very much for joining us with that breaking news overseas. 10 minutes after the hour. Hoda, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Savannah. Now to new developments in a story making worldwide headlines. Georgia's Attorney General has now asked the Justice Department to investigate the case of Ahmaud Arbery. That's the 25-year-old
police officer. And it wasn't until state authorities got involved 10 weeks after the shooting that arrests came. So that's why so many people have been calling for a federal investigation.
We will not rest until they are convicted and behind bars.
With the nation's eyes focused on Georgia, the state's top prosecutor is calling on the Department of Justice to investigate local authorities' handling of the Ahmaud Arbery case. Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr is promising a complete and transparent review of how the case was handled from the outset. It comes as big-name celebrities demand action, including Jay-Z, Alicia Keys, and Tom Brady.
If we don't get it, shut it down!
The February shooting of the 25-year-old African-American man pursued by two white men is sending shockwaves across the country after this recently released video showing Arbery's final moments.
It's heartbreaking. It's 2020, and this was a lynching of an African-American man.
Arbery's family says he was out for a jog unarmed. Now, in newly public video obtained by Jacksonville station WJXT, we see the moments before that encounter. A man walking into a construction site and looking around. An outside angle obtained by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution shows someone entering and leaving a short time later. The videos, both under review by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, appear to show Arbery. His family's attorneys are not disputing that, writing he engaged in no illegal activity, noting that this was an empty home under construction. Gregory McMichael told police he and son Travis followed Arbery because they thought he was a burglary suspect, both men armed. According to police records, the older McMichael said Arbery began to violently attack his son Travis, who fired after McMichael says the two started fighting over the shotgun. Investigators say they reviewed the surveillance video before arresting the McMichaels, who remain in custody, charged with murder and aggravated assault.
Do you consider this a victory?
No. This is just a first step. I would like to get all hands involved. Every hand that was involved, convicted and them in prison.
Now, NBC News has not been able to locate an attorney for the McMichaels. Now, overnight, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation announced another arrest, a 20-year-old who was taken into custody. Authorities say that he used Facebook to make threats against future Arbery protests. Hoda.
All right, Blaine Alexander for us in Georgia. Savannah, over to you.
Yep, now to a dramatic rescue, Hoda. It happened in the foothills of California's Sierra Nevada mountains. An off-duty state patrol officer jumped into action after a man fell into the water.
Be careful, Brent!
It's happened over the weekend at Angel Falls. Officer Brent Donnelly, who happened to just be hiking in the area, used a strap from his backpack and a branch to reach out to the man who had become trapped in a whirlpool. The hiker apparently had misjudged how fast that water was moving and had tried to cross. Eventually, Officer Donnelly pulled him to safety. The sheriff's office says this is a reminder never to attempt to cross swift water. And boy, was he there in the nick of time.
Gosh, a branch and a strap. I can't believe that rescue. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
All right, we're coming up on 7:15. Time for a first check of the weather. Hey, Al, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. A little on the chilly side in the northern part of the country, the eastern half as well. Let's show you what we have going on right now in the northeast. We may see some showers, some afternoon thunderstorms as well, and very chilly air is going to be ushered in behind this. Look at Tuesday morning. Frost advisories, freeze watches, and freeze warnings for 62 million people as that cold air pushes in today. Below average temperatures for New York, Pittsburgh, all the way back to Tulsa, Rapid City, down to Atlanta, 66. That's 13 degrees below average. Tomorrow morning, we may see records from Columbia, Asheville, back to St. Louis, up to Buffalo, and up north into New York City. And during the day on Tuesday, those temperature highs will again be anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees below average. But good news coming. We are going to be looking the latter part of the week. Temperatures warming up. New York, by Friday, 75, 82 in Charleston, 87 in Mobile. Detroit, you'll be in 75, and Oklahoma City will see temperatures in the mid-80s.